He was here maybe 2, 3 years ago to tell us about Mind's Eye Radio, which is a cool program. He might hit on that a little bit, but he's really here today to talk about the National Beat Ball Championship that's going to be out at SIUE, I believe. So we've got Jason Frazier. He's the CEO of Mind's Eye Radio. Jason.
Thank you guys for having me back. It's always good to be present for Rotarians. I'm a past Rotarian myself, as I was telling you. Don't want to elect you for 2 president terms. That happened to me. That usually happens when you're not in the room, like you guys just nominated somebody. I'm like, yeah, that's why you got to be here. But no, as he said, Jason Frazier, I'm also an alum at SIUE. I've grown up and lived in this area my entire life. One of the big things that also has been a big part of my life has been sports and athletics. But before I get into that and talking about the big reason that I'm here in front of you today, just talk a little bit about Mind's Eye for those who may not remember or maybe not familiar with the program. Mind's Eye Radio is a service that translates vision to audio for those who are blind or visually impaired. It was started in 1973. It was founded by an oblate priest. So if you on the grounds of Our Lady of the Snow is a shrine. So if you go to the Way of Lights, you pass my office all the time. I used to tell you to find a big red radio tower. If you were watching the news a couple years ago, that fell down on top of the building, but the building's still there. We're still good. But it's now, if you go to the Way of Lights, once you pass the tunnel, Mind's Eye is the building right there on the right-hand side. So that's my traffic during the wintertime. But with Mind's Eye, we read newspapers, magazines, books, grocery store ads for those who are blind or visually impaired through a radio signal, or if you have your smartphone, whether it's an Android or an iPhone, you can download the Mind's Eye app, and all the programs are there, ranging from the Post-Dispatch to the Wall Street Journal, through your Schnucks ads, to even now we have podcasts that are done by guests or people who are blind or visually impaired as well. Use that one, switch out. Yes. All right, there we go. Is that better? All right, so yeah, we have those for the video side of programs, which we've done all 50 plus years of our existence. We also do audio description. So any of you who are Muni goers or even Cardinals games, we'll be at the Cardinals game tonight, which I'll talk about that a little bit later too. We provide a service called audio description for people who go to different events. We describe the visual elements of that event. So if you go to a Muni, I was just there and I saw Frozen on Monday. Whenever Elsa is turning the whole castle into an ice prison, we describe those parts because some of those are just visual elements. You describe the costumes, you describe what the actors look like on stage. If there's something that's a sight gag, if something that's not supposed to happen during the show, like if Toto during the Wizard of Oz decides it's time to run away from the owners and he's not supposed to, I'm still supposed to describe that to the audience too, so everybody can be in on that joke. But also at Cardinal games, in addition to the play-by-play, we provide the description for if the wave is coming around. We let the guests know when the wave is coming. If Fred Bird is pieing somebody in the face, we let them know that's happening. If I try my best during a little cap dance where the caps are moving around, I do a very horrible job, but I try to at least follow to get you to know it's under hat number 2. The ball is there. So those are some of the things we do in the community consistently. About 5 years ago, or probably about 6 years ago in 2019, someone said, "Hey, Jason, you guys do a once-a-year fundraiser for Beat Baseball. Why don't you have a team go to the World Series?" I didn't know what that was. I didn't know there was a Beat Baseball World Series. So when they approached us and said, "Hey, this is the way you can help out the community," we started a team, the Gateway Archers. And my first thing was, even though I love sports, was to say, I think we'll do it, but we'll just go to the World Series once. Fast forward, now 6 years later, we host a couple regional tournaments ourselves, one in Vegas, one will be hosting next year in Puerto Rico. We take our team to multiple tournaments throughout the year. And then also in that first year, I got the idea of saying, hey, we can host the Beat Baseball World Series. We went to Wichita, and I noticed a lot of things about accessibility for people who are blind or visually impaired going to the event but I knew some of the things we did here, like the audio description and with the radio service, because when teams come, they got to shop for groceries for that whole week. So we have the grocery store ads that are on the app. We audio describe a Cardinals game that they will all go to. These were things that were part of the vision of the World Series. We won the bid not to only host it 1 year, but host it twice. So we hosted last year in 24, went off pretty well. And then in December, we hosted it in St. Charles. I was telling you guys about 2 years ago, we're gonna host this in St. Charles. And then in December, I got a call from the complex we hosted it saying they weren't gonna be able to host this year due to a change. So I got on the phone, called every complex that had grass soccer fields between here and probably Springfield, Illinois. Luckily, one of those calls was picked up by Glened West, which is on the campus of SIUE. And so now we are hosting the World Series there for 2025. And that will start on July 20th when the festivity starts. Game starts on the 22nd. Before I get into a little bit more about what beat ball is and kind of show, understand, I'll let someone who's a lot more famous than me and all of us kind of give us a little bit of a directive of what that is. One of Mind's Eye's original volunteers is Bob Costas. He started it when the organization started in 1973. He was still here. He was friends with Father Bonnie Windbrink, who started the organization, and he used to read for the service. Now he's got back involved because we also have another one of his favorite passions, as far as the news, is also baseball. So he's been lending his voice to helping us promote the sport of beat baseball, and I will let him do so.
Standing in a full batter's box with the MLB logo behind him. Hello, I'm Bob Costas, proud to support Mind's Eye, an organization dedicated to enriching the lives of individuals who are blind or visually impaired. I've been honored to be involved with Mind's Eye since its early days, and I continue to support its impactful work.
Hello, young Bob Costas in front of Mind's Eye side, shaking hands with Father Bonnie Windbrink.
Over the years, Mind's Eye has expanded its mission to include adaptive athletics, most notably through its support of beat baseball, a version of America's pastime modified for blind and visually impaired athletes. Mind's Eye is proud to sponsor the Gateway Archers, our region's premier beat baseball team, in partnership with White House for the Blind, St. Louis. We're thrilled to host the Beat Baseball World Series, as we did in both 2024 and now again in 2025.
Richie Crusoe stands at the plate and hits a ball into the outfield and then runs toward the first base side, sliding safely. Archer's players wait defensively. The ball comes in. Mark Morris slides and gets the out.
In just their fourth year of competition, the Archers had a remarkable 24 season, claiming 3 regional tournament victories and advancing to the championship game of the World Series. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from that 2024 run. A thrilling walk-off by Chad Dillon against the Bayou City Heat to win the Oklahoma Sooner Invitational. A key defensive play here by the Gateway Archers to get the edge over Indy during that World Series.
Down the world champions.
Mark Morris's walk-off hit against the 6-time champions, the Indy Thunder, to send the Gateway Archers to the championship game. Now looking ahead, the Gateway Archers are determined to build on their success and capture the championship title in 2025. Teams from across the globe, including the Indy Thunder, Philly Fire, Austin Blackhawks, and Taiwan Home Run, will compete in this big event. The 2025 Beat Baseball World Series will take place at the Glened West Soccer Complex in Edwardsville and the Reiniger Memorial Soccer Complex in Caseyville, Illinois. We invite you to attend, volunteer, or maybe become a sponsor. To learn more and support this great event, visit mindseyeradio.org/World Series. That's mindseyeradio.org/World Series. Thank you for joining us in celebrating Beat Baseball, the Gateway Archers, and the mission of Mind's Eye.
So that gives you a little perspective of what beat ball is and how important it is to our mission. One of the things you probably saw in that video, and you saw a couple walk-offs, which are rare in beat baseball. It doesn't happen a lot. And it's also impressive that, the guys find their way to tackle the guy who just had the walk-off is always impressive too. It's funny because you'll see the white canes moving. They'll find them. They'll make sure they get to them and they'll tackle. But those moments you see of like teammates, and a lot of the guys who are playing this sport maybe grew up, they were born blind, and this is something they never thought about, a team sport, never thought about it. One of the things I do is I also coach soccer for a youth now, and I think about all the friendships they build at the young age through their programs and through, because when you're seeing those bonds built there in fancy football weeks together, they're going to Cardinal games besides the Monday night together. So it's also that kind of camaraderie you get to see on the field as well with those teams and the competitive spirit, competitive nature of the sport. It's just something I've been fortunate to see. I've been at Mindsight now 12 years. I started as a part-time board operator when I left the great SIUE and mass comm department. But now seeing that has helped me be a better presence here because I actually am going on the trips, understanding the things they need and they need to be provided for the team and other people throughout the league. And also when you see that video, you see there's teams from all over the place, not just the St. Louis area, not only Indianapolis. It's mentioned by Bob Costas this year, we're hosting Taiwan is coming in. They send basically like almost like an Olympic team, their 12 best athletes from the country. And we just got the schedule today, as I was telling you. We play Taiwan on Tuesday at 2:00 on July 22nd. But one of the biggest things to make this event work is volunteers. And that's one of the things we still need for this event in a couple of weeks is volunteers ranging from people who are standing by the bases and you see the guys when they tackle the base, someone just simply goes and sets it back up and puts it back up. So those bases are manually operated. So there's someone controlling the switch. You only have to make it to one base, first or third base. It's random, doesn't matter which one you hit. And that's a job too for the World Series. Helping get water to the teams. On average, we will need about 93 volunteers per day between both locations to make everything run smoothly. So that's my big ask today is helping out. If you have time throughout that week of the 22nd of July through the 26th, there's shifts ranging from 7:30 in the morning, 10:30 to 11 or to 1:30 to help out with that. That's one of the biggest things that we can use to make this event go off. And it's an addictive sport. As I said, when I got into beat ball 5-6 years ago, and I said, hey, we'll just do one thing. And now we're doing all these terms, we're hosting the World Series. You'll see some amazing athleticism. I always tell our guys that if I put Steph Curry or I put even go to the Blues, I put Robert Thomas in your position to do what you do. They can do it, but I guarantee they can figure out how to shoot a puck. They can figure out how to shoot a basketball, make a three-pointer. I've seen it because some of the guys play blind hockey too as well. So I've seen it done, but what they do with athleticism and carry themselves is something that's remarkable. It's very addictive when you're out there. So if you have time, please feel free to volunteer with us a couple days or one day or even a couple. We've seen a lot of repeat people come out and volunteer again and again this week because they just became experts in the sport by Friday. So you know more than an umpire. I may trust you more with those calls on Friday. But it's definitely something I pride our organization for being able to do. And so anybody have any questions about beat ball in general? Oh, yep. It's mindseyeRadio.org/World Series. I also have flyers or basically these to hand out, and this QR code takes you directly to the website as well. And then also the list by shift or list by like the time period, also location. So I know Edwardsville probably a ping for a lot of you. Also, if you're near Caseyville, there's it listed by day, time, location, site. I also break it down that way once you get to the website.
On the volunteers, any restrictions on
I would say anything probably around 13 plus is probably so long as they have an idea if they can stand out there and pick up a base. Now, if you sign up for a base judge, I will give you most times your job is going to be just to pick up the base and set it back in the location. There are times when the head umpire, who's one of the NBBA officials, if there's a close play, because you're basically trying to decide if the player picked up the ball first or did they touch the base first. They may ask you at a better viewpoint and ask you. So you become instant replay too. Sometimes, very often, not very often, but like sometimes they're like, hey, can you go check with that person at first base if they saw anything different? I've done it a time or two. I'm like, I'm pretty sure our player will say, go check with them. And sometimes they overturn a call, sometimes they don't. Sometimes the umpire will simply just go walk. I know from experience, they'll go walk over, say, I'm gonna keep this call safe, just nod your head. And I mean, you say, turn, right? So so there will be sometimes for the base judges that you're usually using two per field, one on first base, one on the third base side. Yes, sir.
Hi, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you as well. Yeah.
So, when you're reading the, like menus or grocery list, you actually read it yourself or do you use an AI assistant? So how does that work?
No, it's all done by volunteers. So everything like the spirit of our mission has been always through volunteers. The story of Father Bonnie lived to be 103. He actually wound up using the service in his later part of life. But one of the things he said whenever someone asked him, he said, how do you plan on getting all 132 shows read, all this done? He said, volunteers. They laughed him out of the building. 50 years later, we're still kind of living the same thing with volunteers, getting the programs read each day. It's a little different than when I first started. Back then, everybody came into the studio and read in one of our 5 recording booths on the grounds of the shrine. Now, with technology, just simply you can read from your smartphone and do the same broadcast. I hate saying this as a mass comm person, the quality is still pretty solid. If you're in a nice room that doesn't have a lot of echoing, you'll be fine. So we get a lot of our volunteers since probably 2020 have now read from home. But we still have a lot of people that come in as part of what they do, as part of their routine. They enjoy coming in and you having camaraderie with the other volunteers.
When did beep ball, where did it start? How old is that actual sport, or who came up with it? That's
It'll be about 50 years old next year. Next year's the 50th anniversary. It came, they are basically trying to look for a way to play some form of baseball. The bases are even fun because they used to have the people just stand there and say beep, 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 beep. I was like, man, I'm glad I wasn't around for those early days. I was like, I know I would have been a prime target for a base. Like, you be a base. But now like the technology is still pretty much the same. The ball, so the reason it's called beep ball because the ball does beep. The beep is more, there's a little pin inside the ball. The beep is more for the fielders than it is the hitter. The batter is actually on the hitting team, or the pitcher is actually on the hitting team. So the pitcher is trying to make contact. If your pitcher is striking out people, find a new pitcher. Like the better teams are usually at like 80 to 90% contact rate. I'm not asking if we can try out tonight because we're gonna be at Busch Stadium. I've told people that joke, I'm like, man, Miles might be good if he wants to do something. I have a career for him. Yeah, hard contact too. Tonight we're at Busch Stadium. We'll be there. Yeah, he is. Oh, that's hilarious. We'll be in the field tonight. The Archers are getting honored before the game. We're doing a first hit. Now you can't make this stuff up. I was like, man, if you see Miles on the team next on the 22nd, you know why. Pitching. The pitcher is pretty prevalent to how successful your team is. Honestly, like I said, most of the pitchers who are pretty good have an 80 to 90% contact rate. Last year in the World Series, in that game that the Archers won, the guy had a perfect game. He didn't strike out a single batter that we were playing against. So our defense had to really do a lot of work and figure it out. So even then, your fielders are pretty solid at picking up the ball, tracking it. You have 4 people who are technically sighted that help out. Your pitcher, catcher. Your catcher puts a target, basically giving the pitcher an idea of where that batter's supposed to swing or where they typically swing. You have 2 spotters on the defensive side. There's one on the right side, one on the left side. There's a number system, so 6 is straight down the middle, and it goes towards the line. So the line is 1. So they'll call it a number. They can only call it out. Only one of the spotters can say a number. 3, 1 through 6, or 1 through 5, and that's how your fielders have an idea of where the ball is at. But they're typically pretty good at using their ears to track the ball because spotters can be bad. I'm horrible. I'll tell guys 6 and they'll be a 4. They're usually pretty good at using their own tracking to find the ball. You're just kind of validating where they're supposed to go.
I just wanted to comment that if you didn't see on the screen that there are people who are wearing fast to cover their eyes so that they can be equivalent to those who are not sighted to play the game.
Yeah, that's a very good option because all the vision levels vary. So like I said, you have guys who are totally blind, completely 100% blind, to guys who maybe don't have peripheral vision, to guys who maybe see through the sides of like a straw hole. And like I said, the way they got there has been very different. Like you have people who maybe were born blind and like I said, they haven't played a sport. You have people who maybe have lost their vision over time. One of the guys on our team, Chad Dillon, the guy who did the walk-off in the Oklahoma game, is an Eagle Scout. He built beat baseball bases when he was 16 years old. Didn't never think that one day he'd be playing the sport. He lost his vision due to a retinitis pigmentosa. Ethan Johnston, who's one of our players, he just got inducted to the Hall of Fame last year. He's originally from Ethiopia. His story is a little bit more severe. He was not born blind, had no vision issues. Unfortunately, in Ethiopia, someone tricked his parents into saying, hey, we're going to teach your son a better education. And they intentionally blinded him so he can be a beggar. That's how Ethan lost his vision. But if you meet Ethan Johnston, you would never know that. He's one of the better spirits of the game, like always up for the sportsmanship award, always giving, always giving back to the game, always giving back to the community. You have so many different stories of where people come from. So that's also why when you see this sport, get to know some of the players, whether they're in the Gateway Archers or some of the other teams. That's also why it becomes pretty addictive because you want to help out and you just admire their perseverance. Yes. Yeah, so the bases are a different tone. The bases are more consistent. The ball has a beep, 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 beep. The bases are basically, think of like a horn almost, and it's pretty consistent. Even there's a little difference between first and third base. So you kind of get that extra thing of being able to tell, because the guys don't know which base they're running to until the ball is hit. I mean, they'll hit, the base flipper will flip on the base right when the pitcher says ready, set, pitch. That's kind of the cadence for the pitcher to make sure they're delivering the ball. And once they hit the ball, or once they say pitch, that person flips on one of the bases randomly. So the guys know which base to go to. If you don't flip it on right away, they'll yell late base, but usually it's because they'll still get there. But it's one of the things to be fair to make it where it's random and it's flipped at a certain time. Okay. So no, thank you guys. I will pass you guys. Yeah. Thank you so much.
That was wonderful. We have a presentation for our centerpiece on behalf of Home Nursery, the Oski family.